Hello, everyone. Welcome to a Thursday edition of the MSP Initiative Live. We got some housekeeping to do, but we got some special guests on today who seem to be bouncing around more than I am these days, I feel like. But hey, all is well. We'll talk to them in a second. Some general housekeeping like we usually do in the beginning of these sessions. MSPinitiative.com. This session, every other session will be in podcast and video format. You know, make sure to go back and check out all of the recent ones, and you can see we do these twice a week, so there's fun. Keep your eyes peeled shortly. Community block parties, we have multiple that we're working on now. I've been bouncing around doing all sorts of crazy site surveys and getting things ready, so you'll love to hear what's been baking over here in block party land. Lastly, Channel Strong Tour. Next one's going to kick off later on this month. Here's the entire schedule. We're coming to the Northeast, broken up over 2 weeks. So at the end of June, Virginia, Maryland, New Jersey, Philadelphia, and then North Jersey, 2 stops in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, finish up in White Plains, New York. So if you're in any of those areas or you feel like taking a trip, come and join us. Definitely put your raise your hand, throw your name in the list, and we'll make sure to get you an invite. Otherwise, you see the rest of the year here. So week 6, 7, and 8, we go all the way to the West Coast, a little bit more of the Midwest, and then good old Florida. So Channel Strong Tour. And so without further ado, I'd like to welcome Jimmy and Kelcye from Quickpass.
Hi.
What's up, guys?
Hello.
Hey,
how's life on the road? You guys have been around for bouncing around quite for at least 3 or 4 months now.
Yeah, Kelcye, why don't you kick it off?
Yeah. I mean, it's no bus tour, but we've been keeping busy. It's good. Sorry, I got
Don't worry, Keith. He has plenty of those. He has plenty of those. Go ahead, Kelcye. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. I think we barely getting started. We've got 3 this month, 3 next month. Like we're really hitting the road soon.
Okay. So go ahead. Let's, for giggles, tell us where are people going to find you? Yeah. So you got like 6, you just said, right?
Okay.
Tell us.
Yeah.
Where are they going to see you?
All right. So we'll be at IT Nation Secure in Orlando and Channel Pro Dallas, both next week. We're splitting up the team a little bit. That's our first time having overlapping. So exciting there.
Conquer. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. We'll be at the Robin Robbins Sales Summit in Nashville the week after that, the 15th and 16th. And then Connect IT in Vegas. Super excited for that one. So that will encompass June for us. And we will be very tired by then. And July, man, I don't even have that calendar up.
July, IT Nation Secure.
No, that's this one.
That's June.
We've got Exchange Security.
Exchange Secure, Exchange Security. And then we leave from there and go somewhere else, right? We go to another Robin Robbins.
Yeah.
Producers Club. And then from there, we go to Denver, right?
Build it.
No, we go to Jersey. Again.
We're all over the place.
Yes. Well, so this is good, right? So people are going to be able to see you practically on every square inch of the United States, maybe a little less, but basically if there's an event coming to a town near you, sounds like you guys will be there. So what do you, what's the vibe on the street? What's the topic of the day? Like what's all the chatter about? You tell me. You're talking to people on the road.
Yeah, George. I mean, I think the same way there was this big mega trend or whatever you want to call it with COVID and the people who are adapting to digital and remote work and all that stuff, we're gaining a huge lead on everyone else. I'm seeing sort of the opposite now, where the people who are able to move back or adjust their strategy, both MSPs and the vendor community, to get out in front of people and talk to people and actually set in person meetings and not just rely on the strategy that worked for them during COVID, are doing really well. And you see the same thing in the public markets, right? All these Netflix and all these companies that did really well during COVID because everyone was at home sitting on their couch. Stocks are going down, and we're seeing the same thing. So if you're an MSP,
did you let me pause you for a second. Did you see Elon Musk yesterday sent out a company-wide notice to both SpaceX employees and Tesla employees that effective basically immediately, everybody's got to be back in the office 40 hours a week. And if you can't be at the office, then, or you don't have a really good reasoning, which he will decide on a case-by-case basis personally, then you don't have a job anymore.
Yeah, I think that was his sneaky way of doing some layoffs without doing layoffs, without paying severance. I mean, I don't know, there is a get back to the office thing, but knowing Elon, his tricky moves, I could see him just being like, all right, I mean, we need to staff down 10%. Let's just see who leaves, making them go back in the office.
I'm sure they're getting paid well. Crickor, this is Jimmy and Kelcye from Quickpass. These guys are definitely, visible. They're out on the road a lot. Quickpass is a, kind of, I wouldn't say like brand spanking new wrapper on startup. I mean, they've been around for a couple of years, but they're kind of spreading their wings. Jimmy's been around for a little bit, right? He was at a couple of stops beforehand, and so is Kelcye. But these are guys in the circle. They're in the sandbox, and so we're talking shop today with Quickpass and these guys.
Yeah, talking Elon.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Elon's a smart guy. Obviously has a lot of money. I don't know where the whole Twitter thing fell. I think there was on pause to figure out what's going on with the fake bots and why their percentages are up or down last time I saw. But, smart guy, maybe you're right. Maybe this was the easy way to get people to just say, I'm out. But that these Tesla and SpaceX guys are not getting paid entry level, right? They're getting paid pretty well. And, it's very interesting to see that maybe he'll set the trend, right? Because, hey, like productivity, there's a balance, right? I mean, there has to be a balance. And I think that you can't, 100% remote workforce forever. I think, despite the fact that like Apple builds campuses at billions of dollars at a time and all these other companies, there is a productivity shift at some point. You got to think so. Like, when was the last time you were at Quickpass HQ, guys?
Never been there.
So Quickpass HQs, wherever they decide to get together, it sounds like.
Yeah, we build it ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, we're split between two countries, so instead of like crossing the border all the time and stuff, we just like I'll have my meetings with our CEO and our COO next week at IT Nation Secure. That's where that's happening.
Awesome. How about Johnny D for a topic? Well, that's funny, Crickor. So I actually followed it, since we're talking current event. I actually followed that trial. I did not watch every minute like Court TV edition, although you could have watched it if you had the time. It's interesting. Like, the thing just came down yesterday at 3:00 p.m. Eastern time, and she already like appealed this thing, right? And like, we're gonna keep on going, right? And this thing's been going on since I think like 4 years. So I think the lawyers make out in these cases, right? I mean, they're definitely like, and they don't just have one. If you actually watch any, like even the clips, right? There's like 4 here and 4 there, and like these guys are getting paid $400 or $500 an hour per person, and like, yeah, they're making their money no matter what. I would hope that, I'm sure the Brad Grosses of the world will say, hey, take that on contingency, right? But I doubt that's the case. I think they got paid no matter what. Keith said, yeah, I got you, Keith. Hey, if you can't pay the bill, you gotta pause it somehow, right? So appeal is a first good step. But yeah, it's interesting, right? Because out of all the, like, there's a lot of trials, like important ones, right? Probably not, as Entertainment Weekly as this one, but that's the one that got all the coverage. I wonder, you ever watch like People's Court, or I think Steve Harvey has one now, on, like they get paid to show up, right? Like they get paid to put themselves on national television, maybe not look so great. I wonder if like by televising it, did they get like, they got a little extra cushion there, right? Because like the TV contract, right? So
yeah, I don't know. I mean, Johnny Depp is definitely going to make out like a band in his next contract, if anything. Amber Heard, I don't know. I mean, maybe she's going to get a tell-all documentary or some book or something. We'll see.
I mean, they all get them, right? I mean, So hey, they're probably getting paid a lot more than all of us here. So, well, like, let's be fair.
It's been too long though. I'm just glad we're moving on to something else.
Well, I really was hoping for another, Johnny Depp as Captain Jack Sparrow, but I do not think we will see him there. Oh no, Darren, can't put that on the live stream, buddy, but I got you. and won't watch his movies from now on, Michael says. So there you go.
Okay.
Now everybody's dirty laundry, no joke, is out there, and there was plenty of that. So speaking of Court TV, many years we did TV special about with William Shatner introduced. Wow, we'll talk about that when we get to the live portion of this, and we'll unmute everyone. So all right, so security is still a pretty big topic. I'd say, every time I turn around, it's pretty much the first thing everybody talks about, and everything else kind of falls underneath of it. Real quick, for the people like Crickor that didn't know who you guys were and what Quickpass does, just give us like an understanding. What do you guys do, and how does it help?
Sure. Yeah. So we're Quickpass. We do privileged access management for MSPs. What that means, like when we talk about privileged access, it means privileged accounts or admin accounts with more access than normal. So, there's a lot of software out there protecting people's endpoints and their data and all this stuff. We're focused on protecting the accounts, the privileged accounts. So we protect you and, your different privileged accounts. They can be on local admin, Windows Server admins, Office 365, and we protect your customer. So we can prevent password resets. We can rotate passwords for your admin accounts. We do a lot of different things, but all around protecting privileged accounts.
Awesome. So check them out. Quickpass, getquickpass.com. I went to the other website that wasn't them. So you can check out this QDesk and QGuard and lots of integrations, which is great. We love integrations. Everybody loves their tools. You scroll down, you see a bunch of them here. And so all part of the conversation of security, right? So I remember the first time I ran into Quickpass was they offered password rotation for IT glue. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So like, for example, like you're supposed to change your accounts, your passwords, every 90 days for a lot of compliance based stuff or whatever. And then like what they do is they go and change those passwords and then update your documentation system so that you have the latest, right? And then you're not running on the stale stuff. So that was cool. That was the first time I ran into Quickpass. That was before you were even there, Jimmy, right? It's back in the day.
Yeah. The reason I joined is because it's one of the few security tools that actually makes help desk process faster. I feel like every other security tool, it's like you need to hire 3 other people to freaking plug it in. But Quickpass actually makes you more secure, but also more efficient too. So that was the main reason I came liking to it.
Awesome. Well, you're not even like, are you 6 months in now officially? Is that how this works? But
almost.
All right.
Yeah.
So we're still early on. So what are you hearing on the street about, like a lot of people, I'm sure, like, obviously you're talking to a lot of people at these events on the street, on the road. It seems like not everybody has their security strategies figured out yet. And I feel like some of the people I've been running into more recently maybe took an early shot at their security strategy, and now they're changing it again. So I know the Matt Lees of the world say, hey, the companies that you're using now may not be the companies you're using in 6 months from now. I almost like shook my head and said, I don't think people have time to change vendors that much or add that quickly because there's costs involved a lot of the time. Anyway, like, what are you seeing? Are people still, like, if you were to say out of 100% of the people that you run into, do you think 50% is too much of the people that already have a plan together, or you tell me?
I would say anyone who's growing has some sort of security plan in place right now. I haven't talked to a single person who isn't security focused, who's adding revenue every month. There's people who are content where they're at, or they're struggling to grow, and conversation goes the same. Haven't done much updating security 9 times out of 10.
Okay, so it sounds like nobody's sitting there doing nothing. They may not be as aggressive about it, but they've at least revamped something within the last year or two.
Yeah, and I think it's also a change of profitability. Like, you look back 5-6 years ago, everybody's making profitability on margin. Where now you're not as much making the profitability on margin of SaaS services and hardware. You're more making it on, like your managed offering and the arbitrage between your cost and actual cost of delivery. So providing real security value is where people are able to up their prices a little higher in their managed contracts. Whereas before, maybe they're reselling a Datto box or whatever and buying it for X and selling it for X times two. The people who are making money are, I think, trying to really expert down in security. They're doing like compliance audits, all sorts of stuff like that.
Awesome. Keith pops in. He says, I can say about 90% of the forensic audits we do, meaning him and his company, do not have implemented simple security controls. We do see plans, but the best laid plans of mice and men. We know what he's talking about, right? Can't just plug it in and expect it to run. If you have prices, you do not have to. If you up your prices, you do not have to drive a Tesla. You can upgrade. We'll talk. Well, that's always this inside joke we're running, but we'll have him talk about that in a second. Have you heard? So what's the worst story you've heard on the road? Like maybe somebody got breached. I don't know if somebody got ransomware. Maybe somebody lost everything. What you tell me? What's the scariest story you've heard recently?
You know, I'll say one on the MSP community and one from someone that we've worked with. So the MSP community one, the RMM hacks. That's the scariest thing. I mean, you know, basically someone gets into your RMM, ransomware is all of your client base. You got a major problem. You can't even work on it. You got the FBI involved. You got insurance companies. You got lawsuits crazy. Essentially, you know, you talk to people who this happened to, and there's a handful in the MSP community who go and actually speak on it, try to help other people, warn them. It essentially, you grew a business for 25 years and it's gone the next day. Like
that's scary stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then from our world, we actually, you know, one of our customers that we've been helping, a hacking group found a list of their customers, not even like a leaked password list or accounts or anything, just a list of their customers. They built a fake website that was the same name as that company, but with a different domain. Like you're saying, you almost went to quickpass.com instead of getquickpass.com.
Yes.
They did that. And then they started calling all of the customers, targeting them, every single one, trying to get them, pretend they're the service desk, all this stuff. So, you know, one of our tools is an authentication tool. When somebody calls in your help desk or when you call them, you can send them a push notification or a code to their email or text to authenticate back and forth. And that's how they were able to mitigate that. But I mean, like, they don't even need to do anything to you to do that. Like, you can just, like, I could set that up on you, George, tomorrow.
I mean, I hope I don't have a list of all of my partners out there somewhere. Because
yeah, you know, well, you know, you can go on somebody's LinkedIn, see who they're connected to, see if they're connected to a bunch of people from specific companies. I know you're big out there. You got tons of connections, but somebody maybe only got 400. You can guess. You see a couple top customers listed on people's websites, very common. So,
yeah, I mean, that's real world, guys. I mean, that's crazy. And I mean, the MSP, like, you know, I know CISA keeps on putting things out, and I argue that it's a little bit too harsh against the MSP unfairly. But like, because so many people are tied to them, right? Like, they're a gateway to all of their customers. And like, the social engineering part is just mind boggling, to be honest with you. To have that actually have been done, right? Like, this is out in the wild. Somebody tried this. It's very easy to put up I call them cousin domains, right? Yeah. Like, you just like put a hyphen or change one letter or something, right? And it happens all the time for phishing and spam. But imagine somebody put up like a website template, like a Joomla or a WordPress. Man, that's like, just scrape your website, make it look the same, and just,
yeah,
that's mind boggling, man. That's actually really scary. It almost makes it worrisome. And I know, like, do you want to even, with that example, do you want to even advertise testimonials and stuff, right? Because kind of like put your stuff out on blast, and now all of a sudden they're using it, against you.
Well, it just goes to show how important proper controls are with your customers. I mean, we can't even get people to not click phishing emails, you know? So like, you need to take them from there all the way to, like, you know, authentication codes on help desk and stuff. It just, this stuff has to be smooth. It has to be seamless. Like,
yeah. So your authentication tool, does it so it runs outside of like the ticketing system PSA, or does it tie in?
So it's in the PSA. And basically they could just click authenticate and it'll know if they have the app installed. And then it'll do that first. If they don't have the app installed or enrolled, then it'll default to the contact in the PSA, which it goes phone first, then email.
Wow, that's pretty neat. So like a couple questions coming through. I'm actually, because I like to about halfway through, I like to kind of go live and
Sure.
we chat about current events and let everybody chat a little bit. So I'm going to just go ahead down that road. Cricker asks, what's the difference between your two products and what's coming? So
Yeah.
if you have more direct questions, Cricker, it's all you, man.
Yeah. Hey guys, this is Creekor. I'm out in California. We had a quick chat with you guys with Quickpass a few days ago. I jumped on and just curious on, can you give us a little more differentiation of your two products? And you guys have a password manager coming, or what's in the future?
Yeah, sure. So we have one set of products basically to protect you and your privileged accounts, and then another product to protect your customers. So QGuard is for your privileged accounts, and that's the product that will actually update and rotate all of the passwords for your admin accounts. So like local admins, Active Directory admin accounts, Office 365 or Azure AD admin accounts, and it'll write them back to IT Glue or Hoodoo or our password vault or our password manager. So that's the one piece of it. You can share access among techs, all that. And then the other piece is for the end users, which is QDesk. That's that self-service password reset where the end users can authenticate with Face ID or fingerprint to actually reset their password instead of calling you. That's where you get that authentication tool that I just talked about, where in the PSA, you can click a button and send them a push notification. And then it also is going to send them push notifications on password expiry or lockouts where they can unlock their account or reset the password. Coming down the line. Yeah, you said password manager. So we just did a bunch of improvements on our password manager for techs. We got a bunch of requests for a password manager for end users too. So we don't have that right now. There's lots of great ones out there, and why we didn't go and tackle that first. We wanted to, hit the missing spots before going after everything, in between, because there's a lot of password managers. But that's something that we're looking at. Another is credential injection, so if you have a password in IT Glue or Hoodoo and you need to log in through ConnectWise control or another RMM, basically instead of sending the passwords through the agent and like copying pasting it in, through the RMM, we can have the password be automatically injected through our agent on the actual device instead of sending it through the RMM where you're relying on the RMM security, and who knows what could be happening in there depending on what
just even be clipboard, right? Because
exactly. So right from IT Glue, right from Hoodoo, pulling that in, injecting, that's credential injection. And then another thing we're looking at this year, and I'm getting, I might get in trouble for talking about all this stuff before it's solidified, but whatever. Just-in-time accounts, where this idea of zero standing privilege, where you don't have any admin accounts active, and when a tech needs to access an admin account, our system creates one, lets them log in using that credential injection. They do what they need to do, and then it actually destroys and disables the account when they're done, logs everything to change control too. So that's where we're going, man. We got a lot coming.
Is that available to use for outside vendors? When you manage something like a shop floor, every once in a while you'll let the CNC vendor into the network, and just once, you want it really controlled. And because those things are so poorly written, you have to usually give them permissions well beyond what you want to.
Yeah, so we're not, into the scope of that all yet. I can tell you right now, for our password manager, we have the ability to do one-time shares for contractors. So we do, like, currently our product has that use case in mind. So I would assume, and you can get in trouble for assuming that when the just-in-time is released, that will be including that use case. But I just don't know right now if version 1, version 2, version 3 is when it comes out.
Cool.
I like the concept. I mean, if you don't have an account that's there, then you can't hack it, right? You can't brute force it. You can't copy the clipboard, go back and touch it later, right? I know that's MFA supposed to help some of that, or a lot of it, but hey, it just eliminates the entire component altogether, right? So it's kind of cool.
Except
Sounds like-
for people that leave their phone and their keys in their top-down convertible, it has their MFA.
Yes, do not leave your phone in wide open, man. I mean, I know you got insurance, but a lot of damage can be happening before you get that phone shut off.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I don't know, but especially like, I think what's getting really popular, according to Ken from last call, was, the FIDO sticks, right? Like the UV keys and all those ones, like Google has one. There's a bunch of companies out there. And you just have them on your keychain, right? If you have that in your car, bad day, right?
Yeah, back to the keys in the console with the top down, George.
Yeah.
We just got to
I
break
know.
that habit.
I know. You should have like a little, like a little electrocution thing, right? Like if it's not you, just and see if they don't take those keys.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, that's cool. I love that concept. It's real interesting how there's a lot of creative, like I know the word zero trust has been, I don't know, like overused, right? In the last 6-12 months, but it's definitely flipping everything around, right? And it definitely, everybody seems to go down that road and say that it creates a lot more turmoil, right? It's almost like when MFA first came out, everyone's like, I don't want to do this second thing. And it's like, yeah, you don't have a choice. You just have to do that if you want your bank account to be accessible. But this actually like flips everything around. And, I think part of the problem, other than the education issue here with the end users, is a lot of the systems out there, even some of the more modern systems, right? Like, because the check signer says, I want to be able to install my own stuff, or I want to be able to access my own stuff, the person that's most vulnerable has too much access anyway. And I think that's part of the problem. So if you could do just-in-time accounts, it really kind of takes the risk level down to like a set window, right? Maybe one of the feature requests for that Jimmy passed along, just coming out of my head, is, hey, like it's timed, right? Even though they like the admin account gets created just for that use, but for how long, right? Is it 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half hour? So like having that automatically destroyed, in that set time, I mean, that's even cuts it down even more, right?
Yeah, and there's some other cool stuff in that feature set that we're looking at doing that I don't think anyone else is thinking about. I won't reveal it all now.
Yeah,
though.
don't give away all the secrets, right? Okay, cool. Well, let's go into some current events. I saw this one come through. The Darrens of the world. I can't wait. Here you go. Enable. This is what started the Datto one, right? It was like hey, they might be. You got it, Pete. Have a good one. They might be potentially looking for a buyer. Well, here's the next guy, right? Basically, it looks like similar verbiage here, right? And this could be. This is gonna be the next one, right? So I don't know how many, like at that point, everybody, right? All the big guys are all accounted for. But
And I said this a couple weeks ago on a webinar. I forget which one it was. Somebody can find the quote. It said all these public companies are valued super cheap right now, and all these private equity companies have so much money, they're going to be nabbing up every single company whose stock is down, taking them private, chopping them up, waiting for the valuations to go up, and selling them off again.
It's interesting you say that. So Michael Dell came out, they asked him, where did this VMware thing came out with Broadcom? And he's like, it came out of left field. We were not soliciting bids. We didn't expect it to come. Like, we were kind of all blindsided when it came through too. And they just kind of, like the shareholders approved it and they went forward. So to your point, Jimmy, like crazy things are happening right now because the stock market's down, and it's been down now for a couple of weeks. It's interesting why, because private equity, and again, I'm not a finance guy, I'm just kind of talking out loud, because private equity, how their whole model works, right? The VCs and the PEs, they create these funds that are they're not really dependent on the market per se, right? Mm-hmm. Like all these people would invest into a fund rather than into traditional banking or, into their own stocks, bonds, whatever. And then there's usually a clock, right? Like they have to actually put that money out within a certain period of time, or else it goes back to the sender. So it's, I thought for sure coming into the end of 2021, a lot of big deals happened because they wanted to get it in before any tax changes happen moving forward. But it looks like there's still a lot of money out there.
Yeah, I mean, people have cash. A lot of these funds made a lot of money during 2020, and they still have it. They need to do something with it.
Yeah. Could be interesting. I hope that, could you imagine one big company with them all? Probably not. I would hope that that's not the case, but just curious how many people out there are using Enable stuff, formerly SolarWinds MSP. Keith, anything on your
me.
side?
No. I see the money. We have a couple clients that are in the, the angel investor business, and it's what I used to do for Ray Lane 150 years ago, when he was still at Oracle. And the gobbling up is an interesting strategy. And when one of the things, and I always respected Ray Lane, I don't know how many are old enough to remember him back when they were buying up companies. But one of the problems is you end up buying a company because of their staff and their technology and so on. But everyone looks around and says, is it me or Jimmy? You know what I'm saying? And so if Jimmy's smarter than me, which he is, and he's a better employee, he's got a better chance of getting a good job, an offer during that instability part. If I'm kind of a loser, like I am, then you're stuck with me, George. See what I'm saying?
Listen. There, for every non-Dallas fan, there needs to be a Dallas fan, right? So like that's you for me. That you're my guy. There has to be somebody to argue with, right?
But so that's one of the big things about moving in, and when they start saying we're slowly melding, that's to me a concern, just based on the history I had before was your good guys, you either lock them up, and if you're slowly melding, you haven't, or your good guys are out looking, and they're the ones that are the most marketable. And so you're stuck below the baseline, not above the baseline.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody literally last night over an impromptu dinner. And basically he's like, listen, when you got investors, who have, shot calling capability in these companies, they're looking to make sure their money comes back to them, with some interest, right? So they could force a sale, because it's the right time for them, even though the original owner, founder, leadership of the company may say, hey, we got to run here. We're still midway through our plan, right? I appreciate the fact that, the markets are changing, but the money people do have a lot to say about making sure their interests are protected. Because at the end of the day, everybody's trying to make sure their bank account goes up, not down. Darren, what do you think about this, buddy?
Which part do you want me to start on?
I mean, we got another guy putting up the for sale sign, it looks like, right?
Yeah, we know it's going to keep happening. I mean, but who does it and what they're buying is what's relevant, right? So it's not something we can stop from happening, but it is, as Jimmy said, there is that money situation, which is very real. And I think you'll see a lot more of it.
I guess the concern is like, all right, you're not happy with this, the way this company does business, you go somewhere else. But are you running out of places to go to, or are you starting to look outside of the sandbox, like I call it?
I think all you can do is just stay away from the ones that are bad. How about that?
Okay. All right.
And there seems to be no slowdown in. I'm not saying they're good. I mean, I haven't tested them all. I'm not saying they're bad, but I seem to see it like a new PSA, as an example, PSA RMM all the time, especially on Facebook. They're popping up, and you're going like, there doesn't seem to be a slowness of people developing new products, whether they're good or not. And I'll leave that up to someone else's opinion that has done some of the testing. But I mean, Darren's smarter than me, but I would think there's 7 or 8 options just in the PSA RMM to the big 3, which is soon to be big 2.
I mean, managed services, managed IT, managed cybersecurity is growing faster than pretty much most things out there. So you go to these trade shows, there's more vendors than you've ever seen before at every single show. Every new show has more than the last. George is nodding his head because he's been around for a while and seen it's like triple, right? From like 2018, right? Just even then. And he knows the price of these things too. So you're gonna
Don't get me started, man. Don't pull that cord.
you're gonna see more and more software money and bets on this industry, people around the ecosystem of the MSPs. And then you're gonna see people have no idea what they're doing, coming in and not understanding how MSPs work. And I mean, that's every day we see that happen in the software world.
And I mean, one that's real obvious, right, is like the traditional agent channel, right, which is completely different, a whole separate sandbox.
Yeah.
And like they're like, oh, it's converging, and I'm like, no, that sandbox and this sandbox really don't align. And every time somebody tries to cross that barrier thinking that they already know how the game's played, it usually doesn't end up well.
It's usually somebody who did it 20 years ago with like printers or something, and they think they can do it again with like EDR or MDR or something, and it's just it doesn't work.
It's true. It's true. I mean, so the way the business model set up is important, but I'm just I'm a little bit concerned. I don't know. I'm going to throw this out there. Since the bigger companies all seem to have a blueprint that a lot of people don't like, right? The contract term lock-in and, not being able to have flexibility and moving up and down based on their customers, leaving or coming, right? What happens even when the non-money backed guys just follow that model because that's what the big guys are doing, like I almost feel like, you're making it so inflexible that, you're creating a stagnation effect maybe.
I mean, it's all based on what outcome you're trying to get, right? You talk to CEO of Kaseya, he comes out and says it. Fred comes out and says it. He says, we do 3-year contracts the same way, the same reason MSPs do them. Because when somebody's looking at the value of your company, the longer contracts increase the value. So unless that changes in private equity, a lot of big companies, especially the ones who are taken private, they usually take them private for 4 or 5 years, then IPO them again or sell them. They're going to keep wanting to do that. And so, but I think it follows the incentive, not the bigger company. So
yeah, but there's a really bad wrinkle in the middle of that conversation, which is the person that you're dealing with, who's representing whoever company, right, needs to deal with you fairly, right? Yeah. Like, hey, they didn't explain the full terms of the situation. They said you can change at any time when that's not necessarily true. Or, hey, you went to go cancel, and like, if you didn't read the absolutely fine print, if you didn't hey, you have to cancel between day 90 and 93, or else, I'm just hypothetical, but like, it's very narrow windows, right? And I think that creates a lot of frustration. I mean, look at just forget the long-term contract. Look about stuff who people are a month to month, and they send I need to change something request, or I need to cancel something request, and they literally can't get a response. They're like running after people for months just trying to get their bills straightened out, and then like 6 months go by, and then finally like they can not yell loud enough to get a hold of someone. I mean, like that's the wrinkle I'm talking about, right? Like, okay, I appreciate you're trying to do business a certain way, but you also need to be available, and actually there needs to be a communication.
Hey,
well, and you've seen some interesting threads which talk about,
right,
now,
you're seeing the same ones I'm seeing, right?
And reverse holding a vendor now saying you broke your SLA to us. And I hate to see a relationship go that way, because George and I talked about this. I don't like people that blast vendors publicly, because I don't think that's productive. My answer is, call the guy that sold you that stuff. I didn't swear there, I caught myself. I said, call that guy and say, your company's not responding, lead me through this roadmap, and start there. Because once you start doing the public, bashing, you've now caused reaction, not action. And so I don't agree with that. But I think at some point I see in that banter where people are saying, XYZ is trying to charge me a cancellation fee, but they were down X number of days. And you're going, that's an interesting company, or they got breached. And so now, are these companies that big going to want to tolerate those public lawsuits? Because no one wins a lawsuit. Going back to the earlier,
we can see that with Johnny and Amber. Listen,
yeah.
I mean, here's the problem. What happens in like the street, consumer life bubbles into what we see, right? The reason people get so loud online is because like when that happens out on, in consumer land, like
Yeah.
there's somebody at that company that's like the champion of all responses to social media, right? And like, I
Uh-huh.
think that some companies in our space, in our sandbox, do that really well. And then other companies have nobody there to handle that. And it's like, nothing in between, right? Like, Kelcye, I'm sure you follow all the social threads, right? You see the TikToks and the Facebooks and the Reddits and all that stuff. You're on that stuff all the time. But like, how many times you go see something go unresponded to, and then like the chain that comes after it's like a disaster.
Yeah. No,
He's trying to think
Sorry.
of the best way to be it politically correct. I'm sure I'm already seeing it.
Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm not prepared to answer this question.
That's okay. I caught you off
Yeah.
guard. I
You
mean,
did.
George, a
that's
simple, hey, I'm from XY company. I'm going to try to make this right for you. Here's my direct email. We're going to figure it out. Ends the thread 95 out of 100 times.
yeah, I agree. But like, if nobody puts that hand out, then all of a
Then it
sudden
just
it
goes
just grows.
200 comments. Oh,
Yeah, there was just one the other day where someone said, maybe it's someone George was referring to, I'm trying to cancel my contract. Actually, they were going to deal with the same company. They just wanted to shift products.
Mm-hmm.
And they claimed that they did everything correct, that no one would respond to them. And then later, after about 3 days down the thread, they said, look, see, XYZ company doesn't respond. And you're going like, you just kind of proved you're non-responsive. And it was, it started like a reasonable request. Their security product doesn't work for me, but I'll buy more, whatever he said, RMM product. And I just can't get anyone to talk to me about that.
Yeah, I think part of the, whether it's the sales model, whether it's the account management model, whatever it is, like, I feel like it's so easy to do this, right? Go to the forums, start typing things. I know a lot of people don't think sometimes before they spell something out and they go back and be like, should have worded that differently, wouldn't have said that in real life, right? But I think part of the challenge is that if it's not easy enough to deal with these companies, that's where they go. That's where they end up, right? You want to call it the back alley of the internet, so be it. But that's where they end up. So I really think everybody should have someone who literally is that public facing, handle or person that goes and does that. I love, I see a lot of people are like, hey, we have our own forums, right? We have our own gated community. But I don't know about you. I feel like they're just not often, they're not very active. Like it's always the public ones that are really chirpy, and like the company managed ones are like not really happening at all.
We should bring up the other point too. MSPs are not angels in this scenario.
Oh no.
And I don't think that sometimes they realize stuff happens. I caught myself again. Stuff happens to everybody, right? And when you pull that trigger that company may be done with you as well. And are you ready to forklift, your PSA, your RMM, your whole tool set? Because, maybe someone left, maybe there's a reason you weren't getting responded to. And if you had called the right person in the company and said, look, I know you're not the billing guy, I know you're not the tech guy, but you're kind of my guy. Could you push this through guide me through your protocol so this gets handled? Otherwise, MSPs are going like, you've kind of ruined that relationship for good. Because I can imagine on the others, if I had a customer doing that to me, I'd be going like, he's on his way out. And then it would get to the point where it would be, you know what? Going the extra mile for this guy ain't worth it because he's just a BI, right? And so I think we have to think about getting off the kindergarten playground and having adult discussions both ways.
Don't disagree with that, but a discussion is a two-way street. Somebody needs to be on the other side to have it. And like, you need to make that easy, right? Like we always say, we've said in the last couple calls, go to the places that your customers want to go to so that you're communicating with them on their lane. What is that? You need to make that easy if I have to run after you forever and ever until I can have that conversation, that's frustrating.
Well, on top of that, that means don't shop for the blue light because Kmart sucks, like they said in Rain
I think
Man.
there's like 2 of those left, by the way, but go ahead.
But go to Nordstrom's. Quit focusing on 50 cents in RMM and go to the place that can afford to have the infrastructure to serve you. That's my answer to that. The low end guy, the guy who's not a big vendor, is starting out and he's got limitations, and you're going to have to be patient with it. And just like you say, we've talked about this in travel, right? You either pay to play or you wait in line.
Okay, fair.
I mean, that's just my attitude towards life. I go, I'm not willing to, wait in line. I don't like Uber lines. I don't like, so people laugh at my travel habits, but that's me.
But even a response, right? So like, I don't know if you saw this on the same places, right? So like the Cisco came out the other day and they said, we are now canceling all original open DNS agreements. So whenever your term ends, if you're not like this, you're either going to go through one last renewal cycle or you're already in it. And as of this date, your contract's going to be, shut down. Now you can come back and go under the new direction if you want to resubscribe to these services. And then, so I'm like, okay. So I was one of those guys, right? I signed up for OpenDNS pre-Cisco, right? And I've been under that the whole time. So I just replied, I'm like, so what is the new direction and who do I talk to? And at the very least, they replied back saying, hey, we got a ton of requests right now. We're going to reply back to you. Just give us some time. That's okay. Like, I'm not on the side of the road waiting for a tow truck, but I do want to talk to someone. Even if the answer is, hey, we're going to get back to you, that's better than ugats, nothing at all.
See, that's a perfect example. When I deal with Cisco, I call Michelle. I know she doesn't, she can say, give me a couple of days, I'll look it up and get the right person in contact with you. And I could move that monkey off my back and and work on something else. So, when I do, it's like, I'll be loyal, you be loyal, and let's have a relationship.
Yeah. So I thought that was, hey, like I appreciate they're trying to like drive all of these products that they've acquired at Cisco into this new program. Okay, I got it. I just want to understand. All right, I've been paying this entire time. I have this many of whatever I bought. I want to understand what it costs if I continue, or is it time for me to look for something else? But I want to at least understand what the options are before I, decide to break to another direction. And I just want to have a conversation with someone to understand that. Now, I guess they could have pre-thought about that as being the next step, right? And said, oh, by the way, if you want to look at what the new system is, go here and then you can see X, Y, and Z. But maybe it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Speaking of networking, you probably heard the Datto is out of the switch business. They're recommending Ruckus for switches.
Whoa, did that just come out?
Yep.
This morning.
Yeah.
And see, that's, and I really like Rob Ray. He's a good friend. I'm friends with him even after he sold me level platforms. But that was something I think they handled poorly, because for years they've been telling us we're developing something way down the sideline. And you're going like, this decision wasn't just made. They should have told us that we're waiting on the side. Go somewhere else. We're done. This is not a good business.
Datto's networking and power has been horrendous, it hasn't been around in a while, obviously, but they just a total clusterfuck. I think everybody would admit that, and we use it.
So are they not even covering that, like for the actively ones out there? Is there not even a warranty option?
I don't know. But it's an opportunity. The way it's written is quite interesting. It's and who knows if this decision has anything to do with what obviously is coming down the pike, right? And it's like, well, yeah, we don't want to be in that business. So,
well, I think
Makes sense.
Even before the whole Kaseya thing, I think there was an open lawsuit against.
There was about, yeah,
the
because what they
networking
did
line, right?
was kind of dirty with open mesh essentially. So, anyway.
And that's interesting that they decided to do this before hopefully or not hopefully this deal is done, right? I mean, it's very intriguing that they announced that. Wow. I know a lot of people have made a lot of investment in that network line, both switches and access points.
Right. I mean,
So-
they're still doing access points, just the switches are no more. So
Where did you see that, Darren?
this is
Got emailed out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, emailed out.
we're writing to make, I mean, it's a rather long, I mean, they're end of lifing everything but the WAPs essentially.
Hmm.
So
Maybe Quickpass wants to get in the networking business.
yeah.
Wow. I can imagine that people who have switches out there, right, that are like in production right now, there, the next question I would have would be, when does the access point go end of life? You know what I mean? Like, do I keep on even going down that road, or do I make a wholesale change now?
That is exactly my thought. You're going like you weren't upfront about this. Are we just trying to sell out? Yeah, we want some consistency on our end because that's what helps us tick.
Consistency. That's a very important word.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, imagine people who just got switches like within the last year, like before things kind of got tough to get. I can imagine that they're probably not really super happy right now. Yeah, you at least got to ride those things for 3 years or so in order to,
You did hear
appreciate them out.
We're writing to make you aware of exciting and strategic shift in the Datto networking product line. Our experience in the past 2 years has caused an opportunity for Datto to evaluate how to deliver differentiated network solutions without unnecessarily manufacturing hardware.
Yeah, I read that and I go, I didn't understand your point.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's like, so are you providing networking or no?
It's like, how about we quit?
Right. I mean,
Well, looks like Jimmy found it in the place where all things go.
Yeah, I was like, where can I find this email? And it just pop up Reddit. It's there.
There it is.
and it's, and then you have to wonder if your networking is all under the control of who, and they decide to just, shut that service down or make it, maybe they'll double or triple the price to, you think about how we're locked in with that networking stuff. It's a scary thought for what's coming down the road here. So
Switches end of sale, no longer available for purchase. September 30th, or until stock is depleted. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I guess this is a good time to get out of that business with like supply chain. Nobody can get a hold of them.
And then they also end of life their router. Well, DNA. Like then it says US and Canada will be available, but all the other areas won't.
But what's lacking? It's like, we're still going to sell our stock, but if you're familiar with that product, you're going like, you need the back end. And there's no commitment there. It's like,
right.
we'll support it for 5 years. We'll support it for 1 year.
Keith, we should call the guy that sold that to us, right? As you said, we should.
Yeah.
That was 4 reps ago. So I don't know. He's not alone. He's not around anymore.
Well, that does make a good point for all the stuff they said the end of life, end of sale, but you can't actually use these things and manage them without their system. So is the system going to run for a while, or are they going to shut it off?
That was kind of what we're saying. That's the big question. And by the way, Darren, in my example, it would probably, for Datto, my guy would be Rob, because I know that reps kind of move around a lot. Now, Rob will refer me down, and I get that, right? I get it. I'm not expecting him to find this out, but I would call Rob and say, could you get me real answers on this? No sales bullshit. Just tell me the truth. I'm a big boy.
I'm going to reshare this real quick because there's the one comment that was 15 minutes ago. It's a fairly new post. He's like, hey, we don't use Datto networking. Back to when they bought Open Mesh, we moved to Unify. This is another example of what has been going on, reflection of the industry as a whole. Big company buys something, makes it where it's been. This is the problem, right? Like, until you break the trend, everybody just goes down the same line of thought. Yeah, probably needed to be a little bit more in depth onto exactly what's happening here.
Well, and to be fair, Datto was one of the exceptions to the buy something, make it worse with Autotask. It's generally accepted that Datto bought Autotask and improved their development timeline, get off the once every 6 month release cycle.
Interesting. Very interesting. We'll talk about just in time, right? Because we got that just while we were on this call. Every day is a new development in technology land. Well, there's also some, I remember it's been a while, right? But I think it ended up on Reddit a while back. It was like, here's the 10 commandments of how to be in the MSP space as a vendor, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's something to learn here, right? Like, you almost like, hey, transparency, roadmap. If you're going to end of life something, how long is it going to be supported? Like Microsoft, when they put out a new operating system, it's going to be supported for at least 10 years, right? Like Windows 10 has an end of life in like 2024, 2025, intriguing, super intriguing.
Yeah, like Amazon just end of life their original cameras. Yeah.
Yeah,
that was
their
yesterday.
security cameras. Yeah.
And they did it.
Which ones, the blinks or the?
The ones that they made, I think it was the blinks, and then they're recommending rings. And
Yeah.
if you have one, you can trade it in. They'll give you a new one that's still supported.
Cool. Because I have like 8 of them. I didn't see that.
So let's look at their response. Ready? This is their Amazon to end support for Cloud Cam. Here's what it means. All right. So customers with Cloud Cam can continue using until December. Like they give you the actual relevant information. Here's what we're telling you, right? It's going to work until this point, or you can trade it in. Like, all right. So they came out, Datto in their announcement said, hey, we recommend establish Ruckus as a preferred vendor. Okay, what does that mean? Like, is there a program? Can I get credit back for the equipment that I have? Is it gonna like? I feel like it could have been spelled out a lot differently.
Yeah, and is there an one of the reasons, because the Datto stuff was not discount, so you went with it for the single pane of glass, right? You're going like it wasn't. You could have bought stuff a lot cheaper back then, all the time. And you would hope that there would be some announcement like, go to Ruckus, we're going to integrate, but there's no direction there. And that's concerning to me.
So
that's what I want from a vendor.
I know Amazon has deeper pockets, right? But it says Amazon plans to send all registered Cloud Cam owners details on how to obtain a free Blink Mini before December. So basically they're like, hey, we're going to take care of you, right? We're going to make you whole. We're not going to give you something that just disappears on you, or you can go to this new product line. You decide, right? Like, kind of feel like that's the right way.
I agree with you. That's 100% the right way.
Yeah. Take a lesson. I mean, one of the few times the big boys did something correctly, right? When I say big boys, like uber big boys, they're at the top of that food chain.
No, I'm a huge Amazon fan because what they do for the special needs community.
I mean, they are a giant, but you know what? Like nobody's perfect. They've made mistakes too, but I guess the idea is like, hey, you built up all this clientele. If you want to take care of them, set it up on, before you drop the hammer, right? But I guess we'll find out the fine details shortly, won't we?
Yeah. And so you look at that, and not to pick on Datto, but it could happen to any one of the vendors. So now you're saying buy a BDR from me, and I'm going like, wait a minute. I can't trust you to get me to cycle out. And so it's, it's not about being a big boy. It's about, to me, being business mature. Is it worth it to dump this line and affect a lot of loyal customers? Or is it worth it to maybe make it a smoother transition that takes a little bit of a investment, but shows we're committed to the market, especially when we're doing a buyout by the company we used to call evil.
I was just gonna say, for all the people that were like, I'm gonna wait and see what happens. Well, now we're starting to see what's happening even before then, right? So interesting times, guys. Jimmy and Kelcye, I can't wait to see you guys on the road. I'm sure we'll bump into each other soon. Yeah. You guys are a little bit everywhere. Everyone else, thanks for joining. This session was recorded, so feel free to go and check that out later on today.
Jimmy, are you going to be the one at Secure?
Yes, I will.
I'll catch you there, buddy.
Catch you there.
Awesome. Yeah. See you guys here Tuesdays, Thursdays, 1 o'clock Eastern time.
See ya. Thanks for having us, George.